All right, this is Captain Lincoln with Fireteam Whiskey, and today we're bringing you a Warrior Wellness video with our special guest contributor, Toni Hernandez. And I invited Toni Hernandez to present because I've heard her speak a few times, and every time I hear her speak, I get not only just goosebumps, which I'm already getting goosebumps because I'm about to hear her speak again, so I'm really excited. But I always come away from hearing her speak like somebody just lit a fire under my ass. Like I feel like I just walk out that door and I'm like, man, I can accomplish anything. So I wanted to kind of harness that and bottle it up and give it to our Fireteam Whiskey participants, because I know that you may feel sometimes, of course, that you're not able to do this, that you just kind of want to give up. You know, the workouts are too hard, or you're just struggling, or, you know, you can't seem to get the nutrition right, or you keep falling off the wagon, whatever it may be. We have our moments, and I want you to be able to play this, because I promise you, you're going to play this over and over and over again. I want you to come to this Warrior Wellness video anytime you're feeling like that and watch Toni Hernandez speak about what she's so good at speaking about. And you're going to come away from that feeling like you can do this. You can do anything. So Toni Hernandez, thank you so much for doing this for our participants. We're so happy to have you. I'm so glad you're doing this for us.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. Thank you so much. God, that's a heck of an intro. Thank you. And you know what's really beautiful about this is that, you know, this is how I feel about you. I think, I mean, we're going to talk about you when you first asked me to do this. You were talking about when I was talking about the hell yeses, right? And so I'm going to be talking about hell yeses. So I'm just going to jump into it, and I will say this and sort of preface what we're going to talk about today is that one of my hell yeses is really connecting with women. I'm inspired by women who they're committed to being comfortable with being uncomfortable and uncomfortable with mediocrity. And I say that often. And you're one of those people. So needless to say, when you asked me to present, I was a hell yes. Not just because you're a badass female entrepreneur, but also I think, you know, like what I'm clear on is that you're clear on your hell yeses. And so I am really excited to bring this to you and your crew.
Yeah, and what I want to point out to those who are watching this right now is that's the main thing that I've gotten from you, Toni Hernandez, is that motto of if it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no. And I use that on a daily basis. And what I thought was going to be so inspiring to our participants about that, what you're about to talk about, is, you know, every single participant who's doing our program was, when they signed up, at least at that hell yes moment in their life. And maybe they're 2 weeks into their program, maybe they're just a couple days into their program, wherever they are right now in this journey when they're watching this. I just want them to hear how important it is to approach your health and fitness journey with a hell yes, and to know that this is the most important thing for you, and that we have so many distractions in our life that pull us away from focusing on that, and we need to kind of keep refocusing back on this is a hell yes for us, and it has to be a hell yes on a daily basis. So I'm so glad you're going to be talking about this, and I will let you go do it.
Yeah, you know, health and fitness is a hell yes for me. It is a hell yes for me. And I say, like, I love, and as you can hear, like, if you're like a more kind of passionate people, passionate to make shit happen. Passionate people are like my favorite kind of people. Visionaries are my favorite kind of people. And if you're not healthy, right? If you are not healthy, you can't create other shit. And that's as much as I think that. So whether you're on day one or whether you're on day 51, remind yourself, like, what is it that you want to be up to? And this commitment, right? This commitment of being healthy. Whatever that means for you, is so necessary for you to be fitness in other aspects of your life. Okay? And it's so funny, Stephanie, when I first got set up, I was trying to figure out like, where do I want, to position? I actually have my vision board behind me. And I have a lot of inspirational things that I put up. I mean, it's like it's a big vision board, and I write quotes, and then I have my 2018 goals. But I want to share this, and so we'll kick it off with this. This idea of a hell yes and a hell no came to me from a mentor, and I'm big on mentorship. Okay. And I'm going to actually talk about what she shared with me and who this mentor is later on, just a little bit, in a little bit. But I want to talk about, I had poured my cup of, I had my hot chocolate, and I specifically poured it into my Ironman. It was 2013, I think 2013 Ironman. It was my first Ironman, and it was in Louisville. Okay. And before I decided to sign up for the Ironman, I had goals, right? I wanted to do an Ironman. Oh my God, I want to do an Ironman. I wrote it in my goals. And a girlfriend of mine pointed something out. She says, look, this has been living on your goals for the last couple of years. Like, is this something that you want, or is this something that just looks good on your goals? Is it something that it sounds good to say? And I was like, no, actually, it's something that I want. Okay, fast forward, I decide, okay, I am going to do an Ironman. Let me call a couple of girlfriends who have done Ironmans. And let me sort of feel the pulse. What does it mean to say I'm going to sign up? And like, what is the training like? So I called a girlfriend of mine. She is a badass. She's a badass on the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, Elizabeth Kenny. Okay. And she has done multiple Ironmans. And I said, Elizabeth, do you think I could do an Ironman? And she said, this is so funny. She's like, no. And I was like, oh, hell no. She goes, let me tell you why you can't do an Ironman, T, because every time I turn around, you're flying to Philadelphia, you're flying to New York, you're off to the next thing, okay? She goes, I just don't even know, like, when do you stay still? She goes, to do an Ironman, you got to say no to everything. And you got to commit to like 6 months of swim, bike, run, sleep, nutrition, swim, bike, run, sleep, nutrition. She goes, if you can say no to everything and yes to those things, then you can do an Ironman. All right. So I was like, all right, cool. Signed up for an Ironman. I would say that the most painful part of that process was paying $500 or $600 for the registration fee. However, here's what I know. Like, when I put my mind to something, and when it's a hell yes, it's a hell yes. And you better believe that everything else became a no for 6 months, because I was committed to that. Like, I'm like, I know that if I'm on my deathbed, having not done an Ironman, I'm gonna have regrets. So I surround myself with passionate people. This is why I have this gorgeous woman in my circle, Stephanie. I find your passion to be very it's magnetic, and so I just appreciate. I appreciate seeing what you're up to, and believe it or not, you inspire me. You'll post something that I'm like, yep, needed to hear that today. Okay, so let's you wanted me to talk about hell yes, and there is a process to this. When you first asked me, I was trying to think about, well, how do I just talk about that? And I realized that I couldn't just talk about that. I needed to actually go back to what leads up to this place of hell yes. People are asking, well, how do I know what my yeses are, right? And I will say, because I'm clear on my hell yeses, and you are too, if it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no, right? So someone says to me, are you interested in doing XYZ? And it's supporting, it's empowering entrepreneur women. I'm a hell yes. Okay. Someone asked me, do you want to help with a fundraiser for, I don't know, horses? I don't know, whatever. It's going to be a no, right? And it's not that I don't love horses. It's not that I don't love fundraising. It's just that it's not a hell yes. So I want to stay focused. So before you get to this idea of a hell yes, and then how can you say no to everything else? I want to go back. I want to come to I want to talk about some greats that probably didn't even know that these were hell yeses, or maybe they did. And why have they become, geniuses in sort of their field, right? It's because they were so clear on what they wanted to do, right? And even when somebody said no to them, they were so focused and determined to make that happen. So, okay, you've already seen Walt Disney pop up. And so Walt Disney was fired from a newspaper because he lacked imagination and had no good ideas. right, quote, lacked imagination and had no good ideas. The next one is Oprah. You know, I hope to meet Oprah in this lifetime. I think she is so fascinating. At age 22, she was fired from her job as a TV reporter because she was unfit for TV, right? Can you imagine that? Here's another one. Steven Spielberg. He was rejected from film school. Not once, not twice, 3 times. Michael Jordan, one of my favorite. It's so funny to ask young people now, like, do you know Michael Jordan? Is like, no. Okay, Michael Jordan was cut from his high school basketball team. Yeah, I get it, and I don't get it. And then lastly, you know, Thomas Edison. This is probably one of my favorite because I believe that we give up. I was telling a coaching client that I believe that most entrepreneurs fail not because they weren't on the right track or didn't have a good idea. I just think they fail because they give up too soon. So Thomas Edison failed some 10,000 times before successfully inventing the light bulb. All right, a journalist asked him, you know, what is it about doing the same thing and just failing? I mean, don't you get tired of just failing? And he said, no, I failed 10,000 times. He said, I haven't failed 10,000 times. I've just figured out 10,000 ways that it doesn't work. All right.
I love that you said that because that's one of my new mottos in life. And it's an old, I guess it's a Buddhist, Taoist Buddhist saying, something like that. I'm going to totally screw it up, but the saying, and I have it written in big words on my vision board in my office, and it says, fall 7, rise 8. And it's about that. So it doesn't matter how many times you fail at something. What really matters is that you have the ability, that stuff within you, like Thomas Edison had, to get back up that one last time where it is successful. So I think that for those of you watching who have failed over and over and over again to lose weight, to get fit, to get healthy, I want you to really pay attention to this. I'm sure you have just given up so many times, and like what Toni said, the difference is you're the person who chose to try again. That's what the most important part of this health and fitness journey is not that you find this perfect product or this perfect way of eating or living that's going to make you feel amazing. It's how many times or how much you're going to be willing to try if these things do not turn out the way you wanted them to.
I went to OTF this morning, and for those of you who don't know what OTF is, Orange Theory Fitness, and you know what, it doesn't work for everybody. It's not for everyone. So that being said, you got to find what works for you, and accountability buddies are the best. Okay, and my coach, she had her shirt read, when life knocks you down, do a burpee. So in preparation for this, I was like, this is hilarious because this would be like something Stephanie would say. All right, so before we, okay, so I've just mentioned some people who have really tapped into their zone of genius, right? They're geniuses. They are the greats, the all-time greats, in these respective industries, right? But I want to go back because it's important to take the first step, right? You got to take the first step, and the first step for me is always vision. Okay, so you have to, you've got to get really clear on where you want to go. Okay, if it means that you want to shed 20 pounds, okay, you've got to write that in present tense. And it can't just be I am healthy, right? Because that's sort of generic. Great. What does healthy mean for you? It could mean something different for me. So get really specific. What does it look like in your vision? Yes, I'm healthy, and I run 10 5Ks in 2019. I am a solid, 140 pounds. Like, put numbers to this stuff, okay? So that it's measurable, all right? And so vision is important to me because it really gives us a picture, a snapshot of where do we want to go, okay? And I always say that vision is the first step in strategic planning. It's you got to start with the end in mind. And when you're not feeling so excited to go and do what you've committed to, which is maybe you get up at 5 a.m. and you go walk your 2 miles, or you go run your 5K. You just got to go back to your vision and say, okay, that's where I see myself in the future, and the work that I have to do now is what's going to get me there. Okay, so I say vision is the first step. It's always the first step. And once you have your vision, right, then you're like, okay, those are the things that they fire me up. They excite me. Okay. So back to the example of, back to when I was saying, when I signed up for an Ironman, even in the days that I just didn't want to like get up at 4:30 and be out the door at 5. I reminded myself, look, come, I don't know, what is it? Come hell or high water, come hell, high water. At the time, it was August 25th. I'm like, August 25th is going to come, okay? And I'm either going to be ready or not ready at that start line. And I'll be damned if I'm going to fail. Like, that is not acceptable for me. So, that became a hell yes. Swimming 2 miles a week became a hell yes. Grabbing some accountability partners when we did 50 miles or 100 miles, that became a hell yes for me. Doing brick runs or brick workouts, which is a bike and a run, that became a hell yes. And listen, it's not always like, I'm not always excited, but I knew that when I was done, I was like, yeah, you know what? That was a hell yes. You did it. Okay. And I always say too, that your hell yeses require you to be unapologetic, right? So when a friend would say, hey, do you want to go get pizza? I'd be like, no. Right? Because I have to be unapologetic. I'm like, no, because that's not part of the plan, right? It's not part of the plan right now. So in knowing your hell yeses, you have to be unapologetic about your yeses. And then if it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no. Here's sort of an equation. I'm a math girl. Okay. My background is science, but I'm a math girl. And I put this together after having conversations with multiple people. And your hell yeses require you to have, your audacity and courage has to outweigh fear. You have to be audacious, right? You have to declare that which you want. And that which you want, so going back to an Ironman, that which you want at the time I could not wrap my head around that, right? I could not wrap my head around what was it like what would it like, could I even swim 2.4 miles, hop on a bike, ride 112 miles, and then lace up and do a 26.2 mile run, right? But here's what I did. I hired a coach, all right? I hired a coach, and there was an accountability, right? There's my accountability buddy, my coach. And then I surrounded myself with other people who wanted to come August 25th. By midnight, we wanted to hear the words, you are an Ironman. And was I fearful at times? Yeah, like when I was swimming, open water, I'm like, oh God, like I've only done a half mile, swim. Can I really do 2.4? And fear tries to seep in, so you can't let it. Like, you've just got to acknowledge that it's there and use it to your advantage and be like, look, whatever, like I got you. Like, it's all good. I got you, and I'm going to do this because my audacity and my courage far outweighs, what I'm afraid of. And so I just want to, these are some thoughts that really help me ground down on what my yeses are. Okay. And remind me to always, to be in that space. That's where I feel the most powerful. And the first thing I'll say is the hardest time to say no is the first time. Okay. And I don't know if you can see that, because I see that we're hiding it, but the hardest time to say no is the very first time. Right. And then you become accustomed. And then here's the beauty. People just know what you're a yes for. So when they know that you're a yes for something, they're going to come to you. In fact, they're going to think of you first. All right. When you're so clear on what your yeses are, and it's your output, it's what people know you to be, they're not going to ask you about something frivolous, right? They're just like, well, that's not her strength. That's not her jam. Why would I ask her? Okay. And then, I mentioned a mentor, and, she, I would say, is responsible for getting me on this track of like, what is your yes? And if it's not a yes, it's a no. And what she wants, she said this a couple of times, and I would say that it took some time for it to really like dawn on me what the gravity of the statement. She says your yes is meaningless if you can't say no. So if you're saying yes to everything, right? I don't know. Like I kind of want people who really zone in on what they're great at, right? If I want to know about keto, I'm gonna call Stephanie, right? Because she's clear. Everything, her output, everything that I hear, whether it's from her or from clients or from people in the community, it's like you're the go-to person for that. Okay, so. Your yes is meaningless if you can't say no. And if you're busy saying yes to everything, people really can't trust you, right? Because they're like, well, she kind of say yes to everything. So stop being a yes person, okay? Get comfortable with saying no, and so that you can get really clear on what are the 3 or 4 or 5 things that you are hell yes for.
And you know what? I love that you cover this, because what just dawned on me was when you do this, when you adopt this in your life, you can trust yourself more, basically. Is when you are good at saying no, you're not worried about falling off the wagon, so to speak. Because you always say no. You always say no to the donut. You always say no to pizza. You always say no to, not working out. So it's almost like you just have this fallback. Like there's no question that I'm gonna be successful today, because I know I'm gonna say no to the things that I need to say no to, and I know I'm gonna say yes to the things I need to say yes to.
Yeah, and you know what? In addition to that, the people that you surround yourself with, they just, when you're clear on your yeses, there's a level of respect that comes with that, right? Your friends are not going to say no. In fact, they know to hide it. They're just like, look, that's not her thing. All right, she's on this mission, right? So I love that you bring that point as well, because it's very true, and you're just going to surround yourself with people that support you in whatever mission you're on. Pun intended. All right, so the last thing is, this is because I am really creative, but I just haven't I have not had the time to come up with something much more than just M, right? And it's because I say that my success and my the people that I attribute my success to are mentors, mastermind, and you don't always have to have a mate, right? But if you do, make sure that you have somebody who supports you. So let's talk about the first one really quickly. Mentors are critical. I am a believer that not only should we have mentors, but we should also be mentoring someone. Okay, and they're just critical. I actually call them my personal board of directors. I'm going to schedule quarterly calls with my mentors. And my mentors all play a different role. These people that I respect, these are people that are experts in their area, right? They can really support me when I'm doing stuff or when I just need advice. All right, the second one is mastermind. Your mastermind is very different from your mentors, right? And my mastermind is comprised of 6 really brilliant women who really hold each other accountable to what we say we're going to do. Okay, we call each other on our bullshit, we're unapologetic, and so I just say we're like a force of high vibers, like people who just vibe on a higher frequency. And so I'm going to rely on them when I'm, maybe I got to talk about something more personal, or, I'm going to grab a glass of wine and work something out. What I love about my mastermind group is that, look, they're going to be empathetic, like, oh, T, I get it, right? But they're going to be like, okay, you need to step out of that, right? And so we don't stay in that space too long, right? She's going to pull me out of it, or I'm going to pull myself out of it. Okay. So we don't hang out in the, like we say, below the line for too long. We're up here. We want to high vibe stuff. And then the last one, look, this is just if you are in a relationship. And people have always talked to me about this. Well, how do you do it? How does that work when, you want to train for an Ironman and maybe, my partner doesn't really eat healthy. Okay. And, so look, it's not that your partner has to want to sign up for an Ironman. Like, it's not that. It's that your mate is really there to support you and believes in you, and maybe believes in you more than you believe in yourself sometimes. And that they really get it. They get like what you're up to, and they're gonna like cheer you on, and they're gonna hold you accountable to it. So, whether it's, I don't know, man, woman, whatever, it's like, just make sure that the person that you're that you're choosing to be in your life is clear on where you're headed, and they're clear on your hell yeses, so that they can better support you. So let me do a quick recap. First is, I say let's take the first step. The first step is vision. All right. So, know your hell yeses, actually. Know your hell yeses. And then secondly is, when you know your hell yeses, after you've created this vision, your hell yeses, be audacious, like be fearless, be unapologetic, and bring courage along. And I can assure you that those two things combined are they're gonna outperform fear. And lastly, get your M's, like your mentors, your mastermind. And then I put mate really little, like, because you don't have to have a mate to be amazing and do some cool shit. But if you do, like, hey, make sure that that person knows like where you're headed and that you're up to epic stuff. So this is one of my favorite quotes, Stephanie. This is one of my favorite quotes of all times, because it is so powerful. And every time I read this, I actually write this in my planner year after year, because it reminds me that, I don't want to lay on my deathbed wishing X, Y, and Z, right? And the quote is, the graveyard is the richest place on earth, because it is there where you will find all of the hopes and dreams that were never fulfilled, the books that were never written, the songs were never sung, the intentions that were never shared, the cures that were never discovered, the 5Ks never ran, the Ironmans never, accomplished, the pounds never lost, whatever it is, all because someone was afraid to take the first step. So take the first step. And look, they have you. Surround yourself with people that believe in you more than you believe in yourself. And get it done. Or if you can see really clear, it says get shit done, but get it done.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love that you emphasize two things that I noticed over and over again. I even wrote it down real quick and underlined it. You emphasize that accountability piece over and over and over again. And then that piece of, sometimes we do, I would say all the time at some point in our journey with whatever goal that we have, we need someone to believe in us more than we believe in ourselves. And that gives us that extra push. And that's what Fireteam Whiskey provides. We provide that mentor, so that would be me. That would be Captain Lincoln. I'm your mentor in this journey. And then we provide the mastermind and what we call your fire team. So what Toni was talking about with her mastermind, your fire team is your mastermind. It's the group of people you're doing this with and are along the journey with you. And then the mate, you're even though it may not be your spouse, but we provide you a mate. It's your Fireteam Whiskey cadre. It's the person you are assigned to one-on-one, who is checking in with you, who's supporting you, who knows your goals. And I think the biggest mistake that people make is they're afraid to tell people their goals, because they're afraid that if they fail, then the people around them will know that they failed. And it's a kind of a sense of shame and guilt. And
Stephanie, I think that's such I love that you shed light on that, because that is very real for a lot of people. They don't want to share their goals. They're afraid, because exactly what you said. Well, if I don't do it, right? If I don't do it, then I'm a failure, right? People will be like, oh, she didn't accomplish that, right? And here's the reality. If you don't think that it did not cross my mind, okay, what if I sign up for an Ironman and I don't finish? That's a very real thing. But you better believe, I was like, first it's mindset. I was like, there is no way I'm going to pay $600 for registration, show up at the start line and not finish. That's just not going to happen. However, that wasn't enough, right? I got myself a crew of people, right? I got people that I could swim with and be at the pool at 5:30 in the morning. I got a riding crew, because it's much safer to ride in packs, but also by myself, I might be like, 50 miles is good today, right? When we were really scheduled to 100. So you bring up a great point, and goals require for us to tell it to people who believe in us so that they can check in on us. They can say, hey, how's that training going? Hey, how are you doing with your keto diet? Like, because it keeps us in the conversation and it keeps it alive. And also it does this really amazing thing. You're just like, oh, okay, I have people cheering me on. I've got people who believe in me. I'm going to do this.
Thank you, Toni, so much for giving us this amazing motivation. And I know that everybody's just like about to jump out of their seat and go do their workout for the day because they've been putting it off until they saw you talk. And now they're like, I'm going to get this shit done. I'm going to get it done today. But where can people find you if they're interested in hearing more from you? I know your podcast, if you want to mention that.
Yeah. Okay. So check it out, guys. I just launched a podcast called What's Your Extraordinary, and I take you on a 30-minute journey into the minds of remarkable people. They're people who do the impossible. They do what others deem impossible. Okay. So that's on either iTunes, SoundCloud, any of your podcast platforms. Just go ahead and search the Essential Culture Podcast Network, and then my podcast, it's What's Your Extraordinary with Toni Hernandez. You can also find me on IG at Toni Hernandez Brown, and on Twitter, which is my handle is Phila Toni, just representing Philly, Phila Toni, and then of course Facebook, Toni Hernandez. And I'd love to, if you want to inbox me any questions or anything, any thoughts, feedback, I love it all.
Thank you so much, Toni. I so appreciate it. And this is Captain Stephanie Lincoln, and this was your Warrior Wellness video of the week.
Thanks, Stephanie. Bye.
Bye.